I met Marcus at the Tesco Express near my flat in Hackney. I was buying cleaning supplies for my small business, nothing fancy, just me and my mop doing office cleans around East London. He was stood by the aisle, looking proper lost, and when he walked past he asked if he knew which brand was decent. He laughed and told him Yorkshire tea, obviously. We got chatting right there between the biscuits and the washing powder. He seemed lovely at first. Really lovely. Said he worked in IT consulting, and his own clients, the lot. After a few weeks of meeting for coffee at the cafe near Bethnal Green Station, he started asking about my business. How many clients did Uno have? Was he managing the books all right? He told him Uno was doing fine, but he insisted he could help. Said Uno was working too hard on my own and he knew about spreadsheets and invoices and all that technical stuff that made my head spin. Before he knew it, Marcus had his own key to my flat and was sat at my kitchen table most evenings, going through my accounts on his laptop. He thought it was romantic, honestly. Like he actually cared about me and wanted to see me succeed. Eddie make Stati Uniti beans on toast while explaining cash flow, and did he sit there thinking Uno was dead lucky to have found someone who believed in me. Then things started getting weird. My regular clients, the law firm in Shoreditch and the dentist surgery in my land, they started complaining their invoices hadn't arrived. He knew he sent them because Uno always did it on the first of the month, proper organized about it, but Marcus said Uno must have forgotten that Uno was juggling too much. He offered to take over the invoicing completely. Said it would take the pressure off me. He agreed because Uno trusted him. Stupid, really. Within a month, he noticed money going out of my business account that Uno didn't recognize. Little amounts at first, 20 quid here, 50 there. When he asked Marcus about it, he barely looked up from his phone. Said it was software subscriptions and he set up to help organize my bookings. Made me feel like Uno was being paranoid for even asking. One night Uno couldn't sleep, so he went through my bank statements properly while he was snoring away next to me. There were transfers Uno definitely hadn't authorized, going to some account he'd never heard of. My stomach dropped. He woke him up, showed him the screen, and asked him straight what was going on. He looked at him like he'd gone mad. Actually laughed in my face and said Uno was seeing things that weren't there. That Uno needed to calm down and stop being so suspicious all the time. That was the moment, I think. The moment Uno knew something was very wrong, but he was too scared to admit it. After that night, Marcus changed completely. Eddie snapped at him over nothing, proper nasty he was. He'd come home knackered after scrubbing floors all day and Eddie be sat there with a face like thunder, accusing me of hiding money from him. Me, hiding money. He was working 12-hour days just to keep the business afloat and he was acting like Uno was some criminal mastermind. He started going through my phone when he was in the shower. He'd catch him scrolling through my message, and when he'd ask what he was doing, Eddie turned it round on me. Said if he had nothing to hide, why was he so bothered? Made me feel like Uno was the one in the wrong for wanting privacy in my own relationship. The worst part was how Eddie twisted everything Uno said. He'd mentioned meeting my mate Claire for a drink after work and suddenly Uno was sneaking around behind his back. He'd say Uno needed to buy new cleaning supplies and Eddie accused me of wasting money. Everything became an argument. He was walking on eggshells in my own flat, terrified of setting him off. Then one Tuesday evening, he told him Uno wanted to take control of my business accounts again. He said it as gentle as he could, didn't he want a row, just wanted my independence back. He went absolutely mental. Started shouting that Uno was trying to push him out, that he'd never manage without him, that Uno was ungrateful after everything he'd done for me. He'd never seen him like that. His face was red and he was shaking with rage. He stormed out and he thought that was it, thought he'd finally gone for good. He even felt a bit relieved, if I'm honest. But the next morning Uno woke up to my phone going mad with notifications. My friend Sarah had sent me a screenshot from Facebook. Marcus had posted a photo of bruises on his arm, all purple and nasty looking, with a long post about how had he been living in fear of me. Said he attacked him during an argument and he didn't know what to do anymore. He couldn't breathe. He literally sat on my bed staring at him iPhone, trying to make sense of what he was seeing. He never touched him, never even raised my voice properly. But there it was, for everyone to see. My clients, my friends, my family. All seeing this post making me out to be some violent monster. He tried calling him but he blocked me. Tried messaging but nothing would go through. He rang Sarah in tears asking her what he should do and she said Uno needed to go to the police before he did but he was scared. What if they believed him instead of me? What if everyone thought Uno was guilty? By lunchtime, 3 of my clients had emailed to cancel their contracts. Said they didn't feel comfortable having me in their offices anymore. Just like that, my business was falling apart and he hadn't even done anything wrong. He spent the holidays sat at my kitchen table, too shocked to move, watching my entire life collapse on a screen. 2 days later, the police came. He was still in my dressing gown at 10:30 in the morning because Uno hadn't been able to face getting dressed. What was the point? He had no work to go to. When he heard the knock, he knew exactly what it was before he even opened the door. 2 officers stood there, a man and a woman, both looking at him like Uno was already guilty. They said they'd received a report of domestic assault and needed to ask me some questions. He let them in, hands shaking, and tried to explain that none of it was true. That Marcus had made it all up. But he could see it in their faces. They didn't believe me. The female officer asked to see my hands, checked for any marks or scratches. There was nothing, obviously, because Uno hadn't done anything. But then the male officer showed me the photos Marcus had given them. Not just the bruises, but screenshots of text message that he'd supposedly sent him. Threatening message. Horrible, violent things that Uno would never say to anyone. He told them those messages weren't real, that he'd never sent them, but they just wrote it down in their notebooks with these blank expressions. The woman said he'd need to come down to the station to make a formal statement. He asked if he was being arrested and she said no, not yet, but this was a serious allegation and they had to investigate properly. My neighbor MRS, Patel from downstairs was watching through her window when they walked me to the car. He could see her curtain twitch. By the time Uno got home 3 hours later, he couldn't even look her in the eye when we passed in the hallway. The shame was unbearable. At the station, they'd asked me the same questions over and over. Where was he on specific dates? Had we argued? Had he ever lost my temper with him? He kept saying no, 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 but he could tell they thought Uno was lying. They said Marcus had been very cooperative, very detailed in his account. Made it sound like he was the victim and he was the dangerous one. When he finally got home, he rang my mum in Sheffield. She'd seen the Facebook post because my cousin had shared it asking if anyone knew what had happened. Mum was crying on the phone, saying she couldn't believe her daughter would do something like that. He tried to explain but she just kept asking why Marcus would lie. What would he gain from it? He didn't have an answer yet. That night Uno lay in bed staring at the ceiling, listening to every sound in the building. Every footstep, every door closing. He was terrified Marcus would come back. Terrified the police would arrest me. Terrified he'd lose everything he'd worked so hard to build. He'd started my cleaning business from nothing, just me and a dream of being my own boss, and now it was all crumbling because of one man's lies. He'd never felt so alone in my entire life. Not even when my dad left when he was 7. This was different. This was everyone he knew thinking Uno was capable of violence, thinking Uno was a liar, thinking Uno was someone Uno wasn't he. The realm had disappeared and been replaced by this monster Marcus had created. He couldn't just sit there and let him destroy me. I know everyone thought Uno should just accept what was happening, but something in me refused to give up. Maybe it was stubbornness, maybe it was survival instinct. Either way, he started going through everything. He pulled out every bit of paperwork Uno had. Bank statements, invoices, contracts, receipts. Spread it all across my living room floor like some kind of detective in a crime drama. My cat Buttons kept walking over everything, leaving paw prints on important documents, but he didn't care. He was looking for something, anything that would prove Marcus had been lying. It took me nearly 2 weeks of going through it all, 2 weeks of barely sleeping, living off pot noodles and cheap coffee, my eyes burning from staring at the numbers. My mate Claire came around a few times but even she seemed awkward around me. She'd bring me a Greg's sausage roll and sit on the edge of my sofa like she was scared to get too comfortable. He called till she didn't know what to believe. Then he found it. A bank statement that didn't quite match up with the copy Uno had on my laptop. Same date, same account, but different transactions. He looked at it for ages, thinking Uno must be going mad. But no, there it was. Clear as day. Someone had doctored the digital version. He dug deeper. Found receipts for transfers he'd supposedly authorized but couldn't remember. Started making a list of every suspicious transaction, writing down dates and amounts in a notebook. There were dozens of them. Small enough that Uno wouldn't notice immediately, but over 6 months it added up to nearly 8,000 quid. The money wasn't going to Marcus directly though. That would have been too obvious. It was going to someone called Jake Morrison. I'd never heard of him. Googled the name but nothing came up that seemed connected to Marcus. It was like chasing a ghost. I went to my bank in person, stood in that queue for 40 minutes just to speak to someone at the counter. Showed them the statements and asked if they could trace where the money had gone. The bloke behind the glass, couldn't he have been more than 20, looked at him with pity. Said he'd need to file a fraud claim and it could take months to investigate. Months he didn't have. That's when he realized Uno needed proper help. Not just the police who already thought Uno was guilty, but someone who actually knew how to unpick financial fraud. He rang around a few solicitors but the moment Uno mentioned Uno was under investigation for assault, they made excuses. Too busy, not their area, good luck though. Finally he found this woman, Linda Chen, who had a tiny office above a kebab shop in Dalston. Her website looked like it was made in 1998 but she'd handled fraud cases before. When he told her everything, she didn't look at him like Uno was crazy. She just nodded, made notice, and said we had work to do. Linda requested all my banking records going back a year. Everything digital and paper. She had me write down a timeline of every interaction with Marcus, every weird thing that had happened. It was exhausting but it felt good to finally have someone taking me seriously. We spent hours in that little office that smelled of doner meat, going through transactions on her ancient computer. She'd point things out he'd missed, show me patterns Uno hadn't spotted. Turns out Jake Morrison was Marcus's cousin. Found him on Instagram eventually, private account but his profile picture was him and Marcus at a football match, arms round each other's shoulders, grinning like idiots. That's when it all clicked into place. Marcus had been siphoning money from my business into Jake's account, probably splitting it between them. The assault accusation wasn't just about hurting me. It was about discrediting me before he could discover what I'd done. If everyone thought Uno was violent and unstable, would he believe me about the fraud? Linda managed to get Stati Uniti a court date for 3 months later. 3 months of living in limbo, not knowing if he'd end up with a criminal record or worse. He'd lost most of my clients by then. Only had two left, but older ladies owed in on me for years and refused to believe uno cold hurt Enneyon. MRS, Kowalski in Islington and MRS, Davies in Bo. Bless them both, they kept me going with their loyalty and their cups of tea. The day of the airing, he was sick with nerves. Wore my one decent blazer from Primark and these uncomfortable shoes that pinched my feet. Linda met me outside Stratford Magistrates Court with a folder full of evidence. She looked calm but he was shaking so badly uno could barely hold my handbag. Marcus was already there with his solicitor, some posh bloke in an expensive suite. Marcus looked thinner than he remembered, with dark circles under his eyes. For a split second uno almost felt sorry for him. Almost. Then he remembered what I did on and that feeling disappeared pretty quickly. We went into the courtroom and I never felt so small in my life. The magistrate was this stern woman with glass, looked like she'd heard every lie in the book. The prosecutor led out Marcus's case first. Showed the photos of the bruises, read out the fake text message, painted me as this unstable woman who attacked her partner in a jealous rage. He sat there listening to them describe Someone uno didn't recognize. This violent person who threatened Marcus, controlled him, hurt him. It was like being in a nightmare where you're screaming but no sound comes out. He wanted to stand up and shout that it was all lies but Linda squeezed my hand under the table, telling me to wait. Then it was our turn. Linda stood up and she was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. She pulled out the bank statements, showed the discrepancies, explained about Jake Morrison. She'd even tracked down the original photos Marcus had used for his bruises. Turned out they were from some medical website about sports injuries. Eddie literally just downloaded them off the internet. The fake text message were easier to disprove than we thought. Linda had got an expert to examine the screenshots and they'd been edited using some basic photo app. The metadata was all wrong, showing they'd been created hours before Marcus claimed to have received them. Amateur hour, really, but clever enough to fool the police initially. But the best bit was when Linda called Jake Morrison as a witness. Marcus's face went white. Turns out Jake had got scared when he heard the police were sniffing around. Eddie kept records of everything, probably to protect himself if things went south. Had texts from Marcus explaining the whole plan. How Eddie get access to my business, drain it slowly, then accuse me of assault to cover his tracks when he started asking questions. Jake stood there in his tracksuit, voice shaking, and admitted everything. Said Marcus had convinced him it would be easy money and he'd never notice. Said he felt terrible about it now. He didn't believe that last bit for a second but he didn't care. His testimony was gold. The magistrate called a short recess. Those 20 minutes felt like hours. He went to the toilet and stared at himself in the mirror. My reflection looked exhausted, older than my 32 years. When we went back in, he couldn't read the magistrate's face at all. She spoke for about 10 minutes, going through the evidence methodically. Pointed out the inconsistencies in Marcus's story, the financial fraud, the falsified evidence. Then she said the words he'd been desperate to hear. Case dismissed. All charge dropped. Not only that, but she was referring the matter to the police for them to investigate Marcus for fraud, perjury and perverting the course of justice. Marcus tried to say something but his solicitor put a hand on his arm to shut him up. He watched as the realization hit him that he'd been caught. That his whole plan had fallen apart. He looked at him across the courtroom and for the first time since this whole nightmare started, he looked right back at him without fear. Walking out of that courthouse felt strange. He thought he'd feel triumphant or relieved but mostly just felt tired. Linda gave me a hug, told me to take care of myself, and headed off to her next case. He stood on the pavement outside, watching people go about their normal days, and realized I had to figure out how to rebuild my life from scratch. The business was basically dead. I had 2 clients and about 300 quid in my business account. Everything else Marcus had taken. Even though the court had ruled in my favor, getting the money back was a whole different battle. Linda said it could take a year or more and there was no guarantee this any of it. Jake had already spent most of his share and Marcus claimed he had nothing. Typical. I rang MRS, Kowalski and MRS, Davis, told them what had happened. They were over the moon for me. MRS, Kowalski even cried on the phone, said she'd never doubted me for a second. That made me cry too. She told me her daughter ran a recruitment agency and knew loads of people who needed cleaners. Gave me her number right there and then. Starting over was harder than he expected. Not just the business side, but trusting people again. Every time uno met a potential new client, he wondered if they'd googled me, if they'd seen Marcus's posts before they were taken down. Some probably had. But slowly, one job at a time, he started building things back up. My mom apologized about 6 months later. Took her that long to admit she'd been wrong to doubt me. We met for a Costa in King's Cross and she cried into her cappuccino, saying she should have believed her own daughter. I forgave her but things weren't the same between Stati Uniti. I think some damage can't be completely undone, you know. Marcus got sentenced to 18 months for fraud and perverting the course of justice. Only served 9 months in the end, got out early for good behavior or whatever. He heard through a mutual friend that he moved to Manchester after his release. Good riddance. Jake got a suspended sentence and community service. Part of me thinks he should have got more but he was just glad it was over. He started doing talks at community centers about financial abuse and coercive control. Sounds a bit grand but really it was just me standing in front of 10 or 15 people, usually women, telling my story and hoping it might help someone spot the warning signs earlier than he did the first time uno did it. He was terrified. But this older Indian woman came up to me afterwards and said he just described her marriage. She left him 3 weeks later. That made everything worthwhile. The business picked up properly after about a year. He was never going to be rich but he was making enough to pay my rent, feed buttons, and have a little left over. I had my first employee, a Polish lad called Piotr who needed flexible hours around his college course. Teaching him the ropes reminded me why he started this whole thing in the first place. He liked being my own boss, liked the simple satisfaction of leaving a place cleaner than he found it. Some days uno still get angry about what Marcus did, angry about the time he stole from me, the reputation he tried to destroy, the money he'll probably never get back. But mostly uno just feel grateful uno got out, that uno fought back, that uno didn't let him win. There are probably people out there who still believe his version of events. Can't do much about that. But the people who matter, they know the truth. I'm seeing someone new now, nice bloke called Tom who works at the Sainsbury's on Mare Street. Taking it dead slow too. First time he offered to help with my accounts uno nearly had a panic attack. He was lovely about it, said he understood and we'd go at my pace. We've been together 8 months and he still doesn't have a key to my flat. Baby steps. The truth is, I'm not the same person uno was before Marcus. I'm more careful now, more suspicious, definitely more cynical. But I'm also stronger. Uno can survive things uno never thought uno could. And that's worth something, isn't it?